dinosaur soft tissue, a challenge to the evolutionary model of millions of years, but strong evidence for the biblical account of dinosaurs living only a few thousand years ago with man. Mark Armitage, a microscopist and believer in the biblical record, made his own discovery in 2013 after studying the methods of paleontologist Mary Schweitzer. Now Mark is headed back to Glendive, Montana to dig up more samples, specifically a full Triceratops skull, and maybe a brain, if they're lucky. He's not alone. He's joined by field paleontologist Otis Kline, founder of the Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum. All of this next on Dino Hunter.
Oh, look at that.
That's plant material.
I'm in the Hell Creek Formation in eastern Montana, and it was here that a discovery was made about dinosaurs that rocked the world. In the year 2000, a very large T-Rex was being unearthed in the Hell Creek Formation. The femur was too large to transport out, so paleontologists Jack Horner and Mary Schweitzer had to break it apart. Mary took some of the bone fragments back to her lab in North Carolina for study. She put some of the bone fragments in weak acid, which decalcified the bone. What she accidentally discovered that day changed the field of paleontology forever. Mary examined the specimen and found soft blood vessels. It seemed impossible. After all, dinosaurs were supposed to have died out over 65 million years ago, and soft tissue cannot last for millions of years. Science has proven that soft tissue breaks down very quickly once the animal has died. Mary wrote papers on her discovery, and she received heavy criticism from her peers, mainly because they knew the implications. Dinosaurs may not be so old. Mary continued to prove her critics wrong by showing soft dinosaur tissue was a reality. Not only that, but she discovered even more details in the tissue, making her research groundbreaking. Mark Armitage, a scientist and believer in the biblical record of a young Earth, was eager to find his own dinosaur soft tissue. He believed most of the dinosaurs died out during the global flood of Noah's lifetime, a few thousand years ago, and therefore soft tissue should be plentiful. In 2013, he gathered a team with the Creation Research Society and set off for the Hell Creek Formation. After several days of searching, they found the skeleton and horn of a Triceratops. Mark took the samples back to his lab, following the same procedures as Mary, and found soft tissue. His experience with electron microscopes furthered his research, revealing many new discoveries. After publishing his findings, he was eager to find more soft tissue in the Hell Creek Formation. In 2014, he reassembled his team along with Otis Kline. We join Mark, Otis, and the team in this episode of Dino Hunter. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
Jeremy's driving. Buckle up. Buckle up. It's go time.
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right.
Ready? I'm gonna go find myself a dinosaur. Full dinosaur.
We're packing up and we're gonna be trucking over to those hills.
We're outside Glendive, Montana. We're about to meet up with Mark Armitage and his team, who have just about unearthed a Triceratops skull. Now what we're here to do is pull samples from hopefully part of the skull and the frill behind it. They just found something really cool. Let's see what it is.
in a debris field with it. So you find everything jumbled and mixed together.
A common misconception about dinosaurs is that their fossils are found as complete skeletons. But this is hardly ever the case. Fossils are often found jumbled about, as though a giant wave came in and scattered their bones. Paleontologists are aware that water was involved in their death because most dinosaur fossils are found in sedimentary layers. These types of conditions are common throughout the world. It's as though a large water event drowned the dinosaurs, sweeping them into large graveyards, being buried quickly by sediments. Some believe the dinosaurs were buried by regional floods. However, these conditions are found throughout the world in similar layers, indicating a large global event happening at once. There's one such event that might match these conditions: the global flood described in the Bible, all happening around 4,300 years ago. Traditional dinosaur dig sites are designed to locate, log, and pull out dinosaur bones for study. If possible, the bones are cleaned and assembled back into the dinosaur they came from, so that museums can display them for the public. Most of the time, a complete dinosaur skeleton is never found. But there are enough parts to help paleontologists build close to a complete dinosaur. Conversely, when digging for soft tissue in dinosaur bones, the process is very different. The goal is not to reassemble a complete dinosaur, but to break apart the bones to find soft tissue.
We're interested in whatever might yield soft tissues. So we're gonna lift this cap here. I think if you're a paleontologist and you're watching this, turn away now.
Close your eyes, hold your breath.
So I'm just gonna try to lift this away and roll it over and see what we got. Okay, that, my friends, is a massive piece of bone in there.
Oh, look at that.
That's plant material.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
It's got all these cool veins in it.
Yeah. You have to understand that this was a cement mixer.
Yeah.
It was probably traveling underwater at maybe 20, 30 miles an hour.
So is this an ancient plant? Like we're looking at an old plant here?
Yeah, that would be plant material that was buried at the same time. The fossil record is not all nice and tidy. This could be wood, the dark stuff. There was a lot of heat associated with this. We know that there's a lot of volcanic rock around us. So we know there were volcanoes active at the time. Here's a nice piece of bone right here. And this is a very large piece in here. So that's another good find. But yeah, that's plant material. That's probably a branch with extended leaves on it. That's probably bone right there. This is probably bone right here. All jumbled together in a big cement mixer. That's probably a big piece of bone in there.
Right down here?
Uh-huh. So it's not like Jurassic Park, you know, where they swept away the sand and there was a beautiful articulated skeleton there. It's not like that.
Nothing's that pretty.
No.
Or easy.
Or easy. Looky here. This is all bone. All this in here, that's all bone.
So what we're hoping right now is that this is just a solid dome in here, and that somewhere in here is dry, protected.
It ain't gonna be dry.
Well, protected to an extent.
To an extent.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's miraculous preservation.
So could you still find soft tissue even though this is weathered and it's got mud and water? There could still be soft tissue.
This is what look at the insect in there. He just went in that crack.
Yeah.
Okay, he just went in that crack. Did you see him?
Yeah.
Look at all the roots in here. Okay, these are all fungal mats. Possibly bacterial mats with them. This is loaded with life that's gone in there to eat it. It's a resource to them. They're going to go after it. That's why I'm saying this preservation is miraculous.
It's because everything wants to get in there and take it away.
Yeah. And if it's 65 million years old, they would have done that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, one of the arguments that was made was, well, the soft tissue that you're looking at is a biofilm. Well, what is a biofilm? A biofilm is the leftover sort of sugary, gooey slop that the bacteria that were living in there built around themselves. It's a little house that they live in. And when they die, they dissolve or break down or whatever, but this biofilm remains. But biofilms don't last 65 million years. And so it begs the question for them to say, well, it's a biofilm. Now, Mary Schweitzer's work has absolutely destroyed the biofilm theory, because in the osteocytes, in the cells, in the nucleus-like microstructures, because we can't call them nuclei, she found dinosaur proteins. She found actin, tubulin, which are cytoskeletal proteins. Cells have skeletons. And she found histones, which are DNA wrapping proteins. You know, we see these pretty little chromosomes in X's and Y's. Well, that's a long strand of DNA that's been highly wound. Wound and wound and wound and wound. And
twisted, just all knotted in there.
But it's not knotted. It's wound like you would wind wire on a spool. How can histones last 65 million years? Now, the argument would be, well, it's contamination. Okay, now you're asking me to believe that a bird or a rat or a coyote died close by, and as he was dying, he conveniently broke open his bone, and osteocytes crawled out of the bone, crawled through the matrix, and crawled into the dinosaur bone, found the osteocyte in the bone, found the nucleus inside of the osteocyte, crawled in there and said, okay, I'm happy now, you can die.
I'm good to go, okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's preposterous. It's great science fiction, but it's not science. And so with all of the mud and wet and roots and fungal mats and bacteria and little insects like we saw, the level of preservation that we're finding, which is staggeringly small, down to 1/16 or smaller of the human hair in width, is staggering. How can that be there? We have no known process that we know of that can preserve these kind of structures with lifelike features even over 1,000 years. This piece that we pulled out here, and see, even by picking it up, I just dislodged some more rock.
It's just crumbling apart.
Yeah, it's pretty friable. Yeah, that's a bone there in the rock. It's sequestered by this rock. So I'm pretty excited about it, and you can see how large it is. It goes all the way to here. That's the bone right there.
Why do we have to get stuff that's been protected by the rock? Why can't we take the wet pieces?
Soft tissue breaks down quickly in the presence of water. I mean, you've had a fish aquarium, haven't you?
Once upon a time. I wasn't a good fish owner, but...
But you remember when a fish died?
Yeah.
And it floated to the surface because it filled up with gas. Why? Because all the bacteria inside of it were not being killed off by the immune system, rather they were multiplying, duplicating, and they were eating the soft tissue.
Scientists know decomposition begins several minutes after death with a process called autolysis, or self-digestion. The cells become deprived of oxygen, and their acidity increases as the toxic byproducts of chemical reactions begin to accumulate inside. Enzymes start to digest cell membranes and then leak out as the cell breaks down. Eventually, all other tissues and organs begin to break down this way. Damaged cells begin to spill out of broken vessels and, aided by gravity, settle into the capillaries and small veins. The cells are depleted of their energy source, and the protein filaments become locked in place. In other words, rigor mortis. The immune system stops working, leaving microbes to spread throughout the body freely. Bacteria then begins to digest the intestines and surrounding tissues. Then they invade the capillaries of the digestive system and lymph nodes, spreading first to the liver and spleen, then into the heart and brain. All of this happening within 3 days. Bacteria continues to break down tissues, and eventually, microbes, insects, and scavengers finish off what's left. This breakdown of tissue is scientifically proven, so it's remarkable that soft tissue is still found in dinosaur bones, even if it's only a few thousand years old. The way they died and were quickly buried seems to hold some clues as to why the soft tissue survives. Understanding these reasons requires further research.
So we got this one right here, but there's also another one down below, correct?
Yes, there's a more exciting find, I think, down below, where we've actually already exposed the skull cap of a Triceratops. You can see the two horns moving out and a section of the skull. and that was covered over by rock, capped by rock, much like this is. So I think we're going to have a higher degree of success on that find than this one, but we're going after this one anyway. We have enough people today, so we're going for it.
A good team of people.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So what exactly are we looking at right here?
What we think we found here, Jeremy, is the remains of a Triceratops skull. We think we have the skull plate here under these rocks, these sandstones that we need to take away. And you can see the outline of a horn here, which has been severely eroded. It might plunge into the matrix here, we're not sure. And another horn over to that side. So we think we are going to have good promise with this skull plate in here. If we can excavate all these rocks away and take a cube of it out, we might be able to find something that might have soft tissue in it.
Awesome. So what we're going to do right now is kind of dig some of this soft sand over here out, try and get some of this hard stone off to expose what essentially is a head underneath there.
Yeah, we got to go pretty far back on the rock to expose all this. The trick is to pull the rock away without pulling the skull away.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Very carefully.
Very carefully, an inch at a time. All right.
Okay.
Well, let's get cracking on it.
All right.
And at least we've agreed on one thing. It is
As the crew digs up the lower site, a debate arises about what they are discovering on the Triceratops.
to find something that round.
That's way too far.
I know it's too far this way.
A round bone is found at the base of the skull.
No, that couldn't. No.
Layers
What?
and layers, actually like sheets
No way.
of paper that lay on
Could that be the condyle?
It is eventually determined by Marge, the ranch owner, to be a condyle. A condyle is a knob at the back of the skull which would fit into the first neck vertebra. The entire head of the Triceratops would pivot on the condyle. Marge has been digging on her ranch for decades and has found many dinosaurs. She knew what a condyle was because she's found a few herself and collects them. Many of the smaller bones are put into Ziploc bags for Mark to take back to his lab. The bag keeps the specimen fresh and locks in the bugs that are inside the sample. Larger bones are prepared for shipment by a common method used by paleontologists around the world.
So what we're doing right now is we're gonna foil over the fossil that we have exposed. We're gonna wrap this thing in plaster and burlap so that we can take the whole chunk out rather than attempt to pull it out right now where it's loose and weak. We could risk breaking it into chunks. What we're doing right now is taking burlap and dipping it in molding plaster so that when we carry it out, it won't get broken. It's called a field jacket.
After the plaster dries, larger pieces are put into crates. Because this location was accessed by foot, all larger pieces have to be carried out. When you have a large research budget, helicopters are brought in to take specimens out of remote locations. But here in Glendive, all bones have to be carried out. Eventually, the bones are taken to a lab and the jacket removed. When used for soft tissue study, the large bones would be cut into thin sections for viewing under the microscope. But if the dinosaur is to be reassembled, the surrounding material is cleared and bones are cast. If a large percentage of bones from the same dinosaur are found, the castings can be put back together for display in museums.
Well, Mark, thoughts on the day?
Thoughts on the day? It's been a successful day. I'm very pleased. We've gotten some large pieces of bone that are promising for soft tissue. If we're successful tomorrow, we'll pull a large cube of skull from the center of this position. But there's another piece of frill that is slightly exposed on a hill not far from here, and we'll probably tomorrow go excavate that.
So 2 goals for tomorrow. Get this cube out of here and try and excavate the other frill.
That's correct.
All right.
Okay, good morning everybody. Great to see everybody. Another beautiful day in paradise, and Could you get a little closer? Maybe you could get some of the pores here too. I do have an announcement about the condyle, which we found yesterday. I did some research this morning, looked into the literature. We might have the largest condyle ever found. The literature shows the condyle attached to the rest of the processes. So if we can lift that whole thing out today, then we can approximate it, shoot it, and then illustrate it. Thank you so much, Lord, for another beautiful day on this earth, which is so beautiful in spite of the curse of sin and the flood, the remains of that. But we thank you, Father, that you've chosen us. Bless our efforts as we continue to dig these fossils from the ground. May they be full of soft tissue, Lord, so that we can proclaim this message to the world that needs you desperately. We love you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for dying for us. And we pray in your name. Amen. Amen. Okay. We have 3 interesting sites that we're going to look at today. Yesterday was a bit of a disappointment. Some of the bones we found were loaded with fungus, and so we're hopeful that today will be different. So please pray with us.
Let's do it.
All right.
Ready? I'm gonna go find myself a dinosaur. Full dinosaur. A little bit muddy coming in from the road right there, but you cross the river, there's a couple little mud patches. One person that has been very helpful to Mark in finding dinosaur bones is Otis Kline. Otis is founder of the Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum in eastern Montana. His museum presents dinosaur history from a biblical young Earth worldview. Otis, you've been kind of instrumental in a lot of the movement through this area as far as like dinosaurs and some of the fossils that have been coming up. What got you involved in this?
From a time I was a little kid, I've always loved dinosaurs. But I think the thing that impressed me the most was when I heard somebody say a number of years ago is that we have to take the dinosaurs back. That the people that believe in the long ages of evolution, and long ages is the only thing that has any chance of making evolution work because it's total failed science and everything, they have captured the dinosaurs.
They've taken it away.
They've taken it away. And so you ask any child today, oh, how long ago did dinosaurs live? Oh, they lived millions and millions of years ago.
That was my mindset.
Right.
Until I started into this. I had no idea that there was even an opposition to that.
Yeah. And if you don't have those millions of years, then the only alternative is special creation, because there isn't time enough for evolution to work. And the Bible is true, evolution is a lie, and the Bible says the earth was created just a few thousand years ago, and that it was created very quickly in 6 literal days. That 6th day included the dinosaurs and the man. And it also indicates that God sent all air-breathing land animals to the ark, together with Noah and his family. Yes, dinosaurs were also on the ark. And the flood itself, from my perspective, is the central pivotal point in history. Everything that we see today needs to be looked at in context of the flood. I mean, where we're standing right now, or where we're sitting actually now, looking all around, I mean, what we see here could only have come about as a result of the flood. All this erosion. And it's, of course, continued on, but the major part of it took place as the flood was receding. It says in Psalm 104, that God raised up the mountains and he lowered the basins for the water to go to. And so you're going to have massive amounts of erosion as that water is coming off of that newly exposed land. And we're in part of that right here. And we're also happen to be, you got your hand on part of it here.
On a Triceratops skull. I might be touching the brain right now.
Well, I don't really think so, but it's close.
Yeah.
And but this is upside down. And this would be one of the brow horns. Go right down through here. The other one actually would have come right over in here. And then right here is part of the skull itself. We're working with Mark Armitage, just like we try to work as a resource to all of the creation-based scientific community, because it's not everywhere that you can go and dig dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
And Glendive, Montana, which is in the geological Hell Creek Formation, is one of those places.
Yeah.
And we have the Triceratops and the duck-billed dinosaur called Edmontosaurus and T-Rex here, and other dinosaurs as well. And the creation community needs to have a place where they can go and gather scientific samples, or samples they can use in their scientific research, and to go ahead and do things like what Mark is doing, what they're doing at Institute for Creation Research, and show the world that the Bible is true.
And the research that they're doing, as Mark stated, it's not like there's some new creationist method of science. It's science.
No.
They're using scientific process
That's right.
to prove just what is, to most people out there, a foreign concept. And so you're, quote unquote, unearthing a real truth.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing that is very important. We all have the same evidence. If I was an evolutionary paleontologist sitting here, I would have the Triceratops bones. I happen to be a young Earth creationist field paleontologist sitting here with these same bones though. And we can all do the same experiments. The difference is our worldview. How do I interpret? I interpret this as something that is young, something that exhibits tremendous design that God created. The evolutionist is going to look at something that is extremely old.
So from what I understand, you didn't always have this creationist mindset. How did you get to this point?
Up until 1988, I was what people would call a theistic evolutionist. I believe God started everything. I believe He created, but then He used the process of evolution. But most importantly, He used long ages to accomplish that.
So you did believe in that long period?
Oh yes, yeah, because it seemed logical. I was sort of raised that way.
Yeah.
It was in 1988 that I ended up being the publicity chairman for a creation conference that we had over in western Montana. And the speaker, I happened to be Dennis Peterson was his name. Unlocking the Mysteries of Creation was his ministry, still is his ministry. He started Sunday night, but by the time Monday night came along, I had to discard totally my theistic evolutionary position.
It just, you had to throw everything out the window.
That's
and
right.
Come at it with a new mindset.
Because I realized a couple things. One was that I had made my God too small. I'd put God in a box. But the other thing that really bothered me is that I had actually had the unmitigated gall in my thinking to tell God how He did it. That, no, you obviously have used long ages, you just couldn't, you're not powerful enough.
You're telling Him how He did it.
That's right. That was very humbling when I realized that was the ultimate conclusion of where my thinking would have led. I'd taken God away from being God. And then I was exposed in that process, and since then, to the vast amount of evidence. I mean, one example alone, and this is discussed at the Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum, there's well over 100 valid scientific conclusions that have come from research in all disciplines that deal with specifically the age of the Earth, the age of the solar system, and so on. And over 90% of them point to a young Earth.
Really?
And yet, the evolutionary community will grab that 10% that the jury is still out on.
They cling to the side that would defend their system.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. To me, then, it also put the Bible back together. If you start to discard parts of the Bible, where do you stop?
So if there's so much evidence that lends itself towards the biblical account of creation and the flood, why don't more people believe in that?
Well, to start with, there is a tremendous amount of resistance on the part of a lot of people to want to be accountable to anybody other than themselves. I don't mean to be cruel when I say that, but if you believe in the Bible and you believe that there is a creation, there was a flood, which is a demonstration of God's power too, then you would have to acknowledge the fact that there is a power that you have to be accountable to, especially today in our age of anything goes. There's your truth and my truth. And,
truth is interpreted.
Accountability does not go with evolution. Accountability goes with the fact that we have a creator. The other thing is the evolutionary community themselves have said that no matter how the test results tell you or even how your gut feels, that there is something to design here, there's something more than just natural chance processes at work, no matter how counterintuitive the results are. The only alternative to that is special creation. and they absolutely positively refuse to go there. They will prefer to believe a lie rather than admit that there is a creator. You know, if you think back on it, what was the very first thing that Satan said to Eve? It was in Genesis 3:1. Did God really say?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it really what he said?
And that's what's been going on ever since. People questioning the Bible, questioning God. But of course, that's what motivates me, and it motivates other people like me, other people that are here today on the dig that we're on right now. They are here because they believe the truth. They want people to see, they want people to know that there was a flood, that dinosaurs were in that flood, that man and dinosaurs existed at the same time, and that the Bible is true.
As the dig site wraps up, Mark and his field team feel pretty satisfied with the results. Mark is convinced that they found one of the largest Triceratop condyles ever. Since Mary Schweitzer first found soft tissue over a decade ago, paleontologists around the world have repeated her work and found soft tissue not just in T-Rex or Triceratops, but in many other kinds of dinosaur bones. These discoveries are forcing a re-examination of the way scientists look at the history of the world.
The search for dinosaur soft tissue goes on. The controversy over long and short ages will continue, which leaves us with more work to do. See you next time on Dino Hunter.